Welcome to Trust Talks with BBB serving CT. I'm Kristen Johnson. In business, trust talks, and Better Business Bureau's mission is to enhance marketplace trust. In each one of our episodes, we hope to give you a better idea of what to look out for and what to expect so you can spend your money wisely and avoid being scammed. Today, we're talking about paving. All of us have driveways, right? So this is something that a lot of us can relate to and get some new important education on. But we get hundreds of complaints each year about paving companies at Better Business Bureau. In fact, the industry ranks in the top 10% of most complained about industries to BBB. Joining us today is Gary Stanley of Stanley Paving. This is an A+ BBB accredited paving contractor out of Wallingford. And we asked you to be here because you've been in this business for decades. And so you have a stellar reputation and you have a great background in this. So you can really explain to us the nuts and bolts, what we need to know and what we need to watch out for as well. Yeah. First of all, tell me a little bit about how you got into this industry and your business itself.
Actually, I grew up into it. My grandfather, my father, they were paving contractors.
And they had their own businesses as well, right? So it was just natural for you to join the family business. But you started your own company, Stanley Paving, decades ago. And now your son is actually getting ready to take over.
Yeah, he works for me, and he's going to be eventually taking the business over.
That's amazing. Well, we receive a range of complaints from quality of work, price changes, delays. And as I mentioned off the top, this industry ranks in the top 10% of complaints to BBB. Does that surprise you?
Nope, it don't.
Have you seen any scams out there yourself or heard of?
I've heard and seen a lot of them.
Can you give us any examples of what you've encountered?
Lady in North Haven, her mother and daughter lived in the house. Daughter was away on a business trip. Guy come knocking on the door, told her $7,000 is paved the driveway. So she said, okay, do it. And the guy had two guys come in, paid him to dig the driveway up all by hand, never paid them, took the lady to the bank, and the lady actually gave him all the cash for doing the job, and then he left and he never came back.
So he never paid his workers, and he collected, but he didn't finish the job.
Yeah, he scammed them and scammed the lady too.
Wow. And people like that, there's bad apples, and then there's great people like you, but they kind of give it a bad name, unfortunately.
Yeah, they do.
They ruin it for everyone. Now, in addition to complaints, we also see reports like the one that you just mentioned to BBB Scam Tracker. These are outright scams. That's a little bit different than a company that maybe just didn't do things right a time or two. So I'm going to give you a couple scenarios, see if you've heard of these before. Help us kind of look at the red flags so we know what to watch out for. These are all pretty common. We see these a lot here in Connecticut. And here's the first one. It comes right here from Connecticut. I was approached by a young man with a heavy Irish accent in a black Ford pickup truck at the end of my driveway. He said he was in the neighborhood doing some asphalt and he would give me a great deal to help build his business reputation in my neighborhood. He seemed like a really nice young man and reminded me of myself when I was that age starting my business. So I said yes to the job because he said he would not have to pay anything until the job was complete, or I would not have to pay anything until the job was complete, and I was happy. So they came a few days later and started ripping out my driveway, and by lunchtime I got a text saying they need $2,000 today to continue. I reminded him that he said I didn't have to pay until it was complete. He kept on insisting that he needed it to continue. I started to feel something was wrong, and when I got home to check on the progress, I noticed a big pile of broken old asphalt on my lawn. There was no stone base added in some new areas. After seeing that kind of workmanship, I told him I would only pay him $800 for the day and that they would need to remove the pile and add base stone before I paid any more. The man started cursing at me, so I told him to get his stuff off my property and I was not going to allow him to do any more work at my house. I paid him $800 so I wouldn't have any problems with these guys while I was at home. The issue is that they do have an HIC license through the state of Connecticut. So what are the red flags that you hear?
Basically, it's buyer beware. Somebody knocks on your door and they say, oh, you're going to get a good deal. Yeah, well, it's basically better to hire somebody that's local and that's been in business for quite a long time to have a driveway done.
Because a good deal doesn't necessarily mean the work's going to be good.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Because, I mean, for one thing, I mean, you said in the thing there, he piled the asphalt up on the lawn. We don't do that. We load it right in the trucks and we haul it away.
And he also mentioned there was no stone base. That's important too, right?
Well, Yeah, we dig our driveways out. We put our stone base in that we need to put in, and that grade everything properly, compact it before it's paved.
You mentioned that this company did have a license, so they at least either they showed him a license and it was fake,
Well, the license,
and he thought it was a license.
That license there, I never heard of.
A
We
home
go through the
improvement
state of
contract?
Connecticut Consumer Protection.
Okay.
That's your license. In order to get the license, you have to show proof of your insurance, or else you don't get it.
Okay. So they may have falsified a document and just
it could
flashed
be.
something. So
Could be something phony.
are there any registration requirements also to
No, but I mean, there's different towns that require permits and everything and bonds that you have to have.
Okay.
And everything, and you have to follow their rules, what they want.
Is it important to ask if they have insurance?
Yes.
And why is that important?
Well, if, let's say they're working on a job and one of the workmen get hurt, if they don't have insurance, guess what's going to happen? That workman's going to go to their homeowner's insurance and sue them.
You're on the hook then.
Yeah.
Your homeowner's insurance.
So it's better to make sure you got insurance.
You
I have $1 million plus $1 million umbrella
Okay.
that I carry.
Because you're dealing with really heavy equipment. I mean,
yeah.
that could be a very bad injury that someone could unfortunately. You mentioned going through the Department of Consumer Protection. If you have a license through them, then any consumer can look that up, right?
Yes. Or basically, I have my license number on all my trucks and equipment, and I carry it with me all the time in my book when I go to give an estimate to show the homeowner I am licensed with the state of Connecticut.
Gotcha. Okay, let's move on to the next scenario. Here's another. A man reported that his elderly mother was targeted by a paving scam just in January. He says, on Friday, 1/10/25, a man pulled up while my elderly mother was on the driveway and convinced her to let him pave her driveway. He told her to go to the bank and take out $3,000 and it would be done when she gets back. He didn't give her a receipt, and he said he would come back the next day and bring one and also patch up the rest of the driveway. On Saturday, he came back and patched up more spots on the driveway and told her to write him a check for $2,000. She wrote the check and he still did not give her a receipt. He said he would come back the next day with a receipt and a warranty. After he didn't come back on Sunday, she called him and the number on the business card on Monday. The woman who answered the phone said he would come by at some point in the morning. He didn't. When I went to the house, I saw that the driveway was not paved correctly, instead just covered over. So the first thing I noticed is the date. He said it happened in January. To my knowledge, paving in the Northeast does not happen in the middle of winter.
Well, we pave right up until a week or two before Christmas, weather permitting. Everything's weather permitting after Thanksgiving.
But we had snow in January. So that's, I mean, even if the snow was removed and it was maybe right before or right after, it's very cold in January.
Yep. And the job doesn't, when you do the job, it don't come out right because the asphalt gets cold real quick.
So if someone comes knocking on your door in the middle of winter, say, maybe come back in the summer or the
or
spring.
buyer beware.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of recourse does the customer have without a receipt?
Well, basically, I mean, if the guy is licensed with the state of Connecticut Consumer Protection, you could write a letter to them and they will actually contact him to tell him either rectify the problem with the homeowner or we're going to take your license away.
Gotcha.
In the state of Connecticut, you're supposed to, any job that you do over $250, you have to be licensed with the state of Connecticut.
So that's good. That's a reason. One of the reasons you want to make sure they have a license to begin with. Besides the weather and the fact that they're offering to do this in the middle of winter, are there any other red flags that you see?
Not necessarily, no. You just got to be careful. That's all.
Is it common to have to pay on the spot like that?
No. When I normally 99% of the jobs I do, it's payment in full when the job is completed, unless we have to back off the job, let it sit because of being wet or the ground being unstable to where we can't pave it yet. And then I only take a small amount of money from the customer and then the rest on completion. And they do get on the contract, they have a start date and a completion date for the warranty.
And you mentioned contract, and in neither of these scenarios did they mention even signing a contract.
Yeah, well, you got to be careful.
You definitely want it in writing. Okay. Our third example is of two people who came to the house stating that they had excess paving and road oiling materials. They did a horrible job, stated their equipment broke down and they would need to come back. They never came back. Their phone numbers do not work, and they did not leave a business address. This is one of the most common scams we see. We see it with roofing too, but often with paving is the extra material scam. I was in your neighborhood.
Yeah, we're in the neighborhood. We got extra material. Or one of them that they're doing now is, oh, we were doing a job and we hit a water line and we can't pave it and we have the material on the truck. I can give you a good deal. And the next thing you know, you're being ripped off.
So what if someone comes to your door saying, you know, I have extra material? So is that a red flag just saying that, or do you need to ask more questions?
There's times when we do a job and I have material left and I'll see somebody's house and they got a pothole or something like that they need filled. I'll knock on the door and I'll ask them if they want a price to fix it, you know, and I'll give them a reasonable price. I'm not out there to rip anybody off. And they want it done, fine. If not, we go away. So
we do sometimes see where that type of thing can lead to a scam, where I'm just going to do this little project for you. Oh, wait, you have more problems than that. We need to do the whole thing. So how do people prevent that from happening? Because you're trustworthy, but not everyone else. Not
really. There's contractors out there that will go out and that's, you know, a certified contractor with license and everything. They'll give prices to pave a driveway. They'll give a cheap price for doing the work. And then when they get in the middle of doing the driveway, they knock on the homeowner's door and tell them that they have to pay more money.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
So that's why you need it in writing.
Even contractors that are licensed do that to get more money out of them. And the funny thing is, the money that they're charging them more is the exact price that I would give for doing the whole complete driveway from start to finish with no questions asked.
So they give them an attractive price to get them hooked.
Right.
And then
after they get in there and start tearing the driveway up, the homeowner's like, well, I got to give them more money. What am I going to do? Here's my driveway all tore up.
And that's why it's so
they do it.
So important to research, look at reviews and complaints and see, because odds are someone's complained about that happening to them. And if you just look it up ahead of time. But unfortunately, people get so sucked in so quickly. Oh, I've got to do this right now, right? They'll say, you got to decide right now if you want this deal or not. And so people don't give them the time to Google it first or go to bbb.org first and look up what people are saying, unfortunately. Do you have one overall tip that if followed could have prevented all of the scams I mentioned and that you mentioned from occurring?
It's just that buyer beware when somebody knocks on your door, or if they're telling you to go to the bank and get the money, that's a red flag right there.
Okay.
You know?
So let's say that we are doing this right. We're going to do our research. We're going to look at 3 different companies and we're going to compare apples to apples so that we know who we want to go with. Let's start at the beginning of the process. So you want three quotes, right? And I imagine you want to do it in person.
Get 2 or 3 quotes, whatever.
And you want to do it in person, right?
I've had people call me on the phone for an estimate and they say, well, I'm not going to be home. Well, when I won't go to a house without the homeowner being there.
Oh.
So I can go over every little detail with them of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, how they want the shape of the driveway, if they want to make it bigger or whatever. So this way here, the homeowner knows who they're dealing with.
Okay, so that's important. And then comparing to apples, I mentioned that before. What should be in the quote? Because one contract may look different than the other. You really want to be comparing the same thing, so you get a good...
Well, basically, your material, what you're using, the amount of material, what type of warranty you're going to get on the driveway. We give a full 2-year warranty on our work that we do for paving.
I was going to ask that. Like what?
Seal coating and repairs, there's no warranty on, because who knows what's going to happen. A lot of repairs people want done, and actually the whole driveway needs to be repaved, and the repair that you do don't hold because the areas around your repair are damaged, and the water gets underneath there and causes the new pavement damaged.
Okay, so 2 years. So there should be dates, right? This is going to start. We're going to start by this date.
Yeah, we put a start date on our contract at a completion date. When I go to the job, I have a 3-copy contract. I have the white, the yellow, and the pink. I give the pink one to them. When the job's completed, they get the yellow with the start date, completion date on it.
Okay.
And everything that's on that pink contract is on the yellow one.
And obviously you're dealing with weather, so there's got to be some flexibility from the homeowner there.
We don't work in the rain.
You don't work in the rain.
Or I'm not going to go out and tear somebody's driveway out in the rain and leave a bit of butthole.
Okay. But you do let it settle for a while before you actually pave it, right?
No, because if we were digging the driveway out and we would go like 2 to 3 feet deep, I say, yeah, let it sit. But we only dig down deep enough to put our base and our asphalt, which is not disturb the ground.
So I've been told, drive on it, let it get compacted. That's not true.
That's just a selling purpose.
Really?
That's all that's for, to make the homeowner think they're going to get a better job.
And in the meantime, that person's going out and doing other jobs probably.
I mean, I've seen contractors let driveways sit for 2 or 3 months.
Oh, that's a long
I'd go in and I
time.
paved the neighbor's driveway, and that driveway lasts just as long as the one that's set for 2 or 3 months.
Okay. I'm thinking more like 2 weeks.
And
that
your
sort of
average
thing.
driveway is, depending on water drainage, tree roots, could hold anywhere between 20, 25 to 30 years before it has to be replaced.
So the warranty is only for 2 years, but it could last for 30 years.
It could last up to 30 years driveway.
Do you know what the average is? It depends on who's doing it,
Average
right?
is anywhere between 20 to maybe 25.
Okay. Sort of like a roof then, almost,
You know,
right? 'Cause roof
yeah.
lasts 30
But
years.
you're going to get cracks in the driveway. You're going to get wear and tear, and a lot of people don't realize the edge of the driveway is your weak point. If they drive off the edge or near it, the driveway starts collapsing on the edge because there's nothing there to support it.
Okay.
So,
That's good to know. Is there a certain grade of asphalt that's better than others?
basically, no. There's a driveway mix. There's your Class 2 road mix, and that gets used. It all depends on the driveway. Big, long driveways, we use Class 2 road mix, commercial grade. Smaller driveways, we use regular driveway mix.
What does it matter? I guess what's the difference?
It's the commercial grade of asphalt has got more stone in the mix, which gives the pavement more strength.
Now I've seen quotes too. They'll say like how thick it is. Is that the asphalt itself, or is that the rock underneath? And how thick
Your
do you
base
recommend?
you should have a base of 4 to 6 inches of stone.
Okay.
Your asphalt, we lay it at 3 inches thick, and it compacts to 2.5.
Okay, so look for that in the contract as well.
Yeah. I have that in all my contracts that I do, with the amount of material, the thickness, what it's compacted to, the asphalt, and everything's in there.
Okay. Now sometimes companies don't lay rock down. I've seen just dirt instead of rock.
that happens.
Do you recommend or not recommend that, and why?
Well, some people will go in, some guys will go in and they'll dig the driveway out, and they'll just use whatever base is there. We either, if we, like a lot of jobs that we do in Cheshire, Connecticut, and that they use what they call bank rud, which is dirt and rock. And what happens is water gets underneath the rock and it freezes and it pushes up through the pavement.
Okay.
So we have to dig the driveway out, take that out of there. Then we put our base in of regular stone and then our asphalt.
If there's no stone though, if it's just dirt,
It should be dug out deeper and put stone in.
otherwise what's going to happen?
Well, the driveway's never going to hold.
Okay.
It's going to come apart. Rock's going to come pushing through it.
So it's probably cheaper to do it that way, but it's not going to last as
Yeah,
long.
right. It is.
Okay. Now, you talked about you do a 2-year guarantee, 2-year warranty. If the company won't guarantee their work, should you look elsewhere?
You should. Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about what conditions are suitable for paving. What is the paving season? When does it typically start?
We start in April and we end a week or two before Christmas. Like I said, weather bidding.
And is there like a certain temperature? Like, can it be, like, how warm does it
For
have to be to
paving,
start?
not. For seal coating, there is a certain temperature.
Okay.
For seal coating, temperature's got to be 50 or above. For paving, we can work if it's 20 degrees outside.
Really?
Because the asphalt's hot.
Oh, okay.
And we're laying it hot. And I have trucks that have heated bodies that keeps the asphalt hot. Plus, there's a heating system on my paving machine as we're laying the asphalt.
And how many days of dry weather do you need for that asphalt to set?
Well, basically, I mean, if we paved the driveway and it rained an hour later, it doesn't hurt the
That's
driveway.
good.
It helps harden it.
Oh, okay.
Water's good for a driveway after it's paved because asphalt's made to have give to it.
Oh.
And during the summertime, it softens, and then in the wintertime, it hardens. That's the way it's designed to be.
Oh.
So that will happen throughout the whole period of driveways. I've seen driveways that we've torn out that were 20 years old, and they were like goo because of the heat.
Now, what about in the dead of summer? Like we're talking August when it's, really hot and humid. Does that pose any problems or?
No,
is it
because
fine?
the hotter the weather, the better the job you get.
Oh,
Because the asphalt stays hotter.
Okay. Okay. Very good. And how many days should you keep your car off the driveway?
Normally it's 5-6 days, and then you can walk on it right after it's completed, and you won't track it in the house.
Okay. Very good. So you can walk on it within the 24 hours, but you shouldn't
Well, you
drive on
can
it
walk
for
on
five.
it right after we're finished with the whole driveway.
Okay. Okay. And then let's talk about upkeep. What do you do to improve the life of your driveway?
Well, basically, you don't have to. It's not a mandatory thing to seal coat your driveway. What sealer does is protects the top of the driveway from anything that drips out of a vehicle. Your gas, your oil, antifreeze, transmission fluid, power steering fluid. That drips into the pavement and it starts eating away the liquid of the asphalt that's in the pavement. The sealer protects that from that happening.
What if you haven't sealed it yet and that happens? Can the sealer help get rid of that, or it just covers it up?
It just covers it up.
Okay. But there are some rules about how often you use sealant, correct?
Yeah, I tell all my customers, only seal the driveway once every 3 to 5 years.
Okay. So.
And give it a chance to wear off, because if you over seal, it builds up a thickness and it starts cracking and peeling, and that happens, forget it, you ruined your driveway.
So you get the new driveway, and 3 to 5 years later is the first time you seal it, and then you wait another 3 to 5 years to seal it again. Otherwise, it'll crack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, the sealant
will crack, not the driveway, but it'll look like it's cracked.
A lot of people think that seal coating is going to protect the driveway to keep it from cracking and breaking. It doesn't. It just protects the top of it from anything that drips out of a vehicle.
But don't do it every year. It's not something you should be doing annually.
It's not a mandatory thing to do. And people that have driveways that are on steep hills, I recommend not to seal the driveway at all.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Because it makes the driveway slippery to where they have a hard time getting up the driveway, especially during the winter months.
Speaking in the winter, is it safe to put salt on it that first winter after you've gotten
you could salt and sand your driveway. You can do that, no problem. They do the roads.
Okay.
So.
Okay. That's
the only
true.
thing, the salt eats up concrete.
Oh.
If you got a concrete sidewalk or whatever, it will actually start eating it away.
Okay.
But it doesn't affect the pavement.
Okay, very good. Well, I want to circle back to scams for a second, because BBB has some tips too to avoid contract scams. The first is something that we talked about already, and that I think is your number one tip, which is be wary of unsolicited offers. Most scams involving contractors begin when a random contractor goes out of the way to offer you an estimate that was never requested. So be extra cautious if the estimate is discounted. Is there anything more you have to add to that?
No.
That you didn't already say? The second one is research companies and contractors before you hire. Before you agree to hire a contractor and make payments, start with bbb.org. If the contractor has multiple negative reviews and complaints, don't hire them. A simple internet search often reveals companies or individuals involved in fraudulent activities or provided unsatisfactory work to previous clients. Next is get everything in writing. We talked about that. Ask for an estimate in writing before payment is even discussed. Don't let a contractor start working on a project until a written signed contract outlining start and completion dates, a detailed description of the work, material costs, payment arrangements, and warranty information is provided. And you mentioned it's typical to not have to pay until the work is done.
Well, if the contractor can't afford to lay out the money and pay for the labor and everything to do a job, they shouldn't be doing the work. If they have to take a deposit off every job they do.
Okay, that's interesting. Stagger payments. This is something also most contractors may require a percentage upfront, but you said it might be a very small percentage, right?
Yeah, and well, it all depends on the cost of the job.
Okay.
Normally, commercial jobs require half down and then the other half on completion, but I do not take any money from them until I show up on that job with my equipment to do the work.
And residential's a little bit different. It's mostly
right. Residential, we come in, we do the work, you pay me in full when the job's finished.
Okay, use safe payment methods. What do you just take cash? Do you take credit card?
We
Venmo?
take Visa, MasterCard, and check.
Okay, so if they're saying they'll only take cash, that might be a red flag?
Yes.
Because then
it makes you wonder what they're,
doing with the cash.
Well, not just that they're, they're not a reputable contractor, that they have an account with their business name in the bank.
Okay, that's good. And also, the thing is with cash is it's harder to dispute it, right?
Right.
It's hard to get your money back.
You can't track it.
Once it's in the hand of a scammer, you're not getting it back. But at least with a credit card, you can dispute it. You can dispute the charge.
Yeah, you can. I've never had it happen to me, but it has happened where people have actually canceled a credit card on a contractor.
Oh, geez. Now, if you use a check, write it to the company, not an individual. You mentioned that, if they should have their business.
People, they write a check out, Stanley Paving, we take it to the bank, we deposit it.
Okay. One of the common themes in our scam reports is that older adults tend to be targeted by these scams. So it's really important to anyone that's listening out there, if they have an older adult in their life, their parents, their loved ones, neighbor, they might be vulnerable to this scam.
Yeah, they are.
They need to talk to them. They're home.
Right. And I've actually gone out and talked to elderly people, and they tell me, oh, I'm going to have my son look this over. That's a good idea. If you got a family member, have them look over the contract before you do anything.
That's smart. Well, my final question to you is about your BBB accreditation. As I mentioned, you have been in this business for decades. In fact, you've been accredited with BBB for 38 years. What drew you to become accredited way back when, and what do you hope it says to your customers?
Well, basically, it's telling them that I could, I'm going to do the job and do it right. And if there's a problem, we stand behind our work to go back and take care of the problem.
Well, we appreciate you being committed to that trust, that trustworthiness in the market. And obviously, you've been around for a long time, and there's a reason for that. So, Gary Stanley of Stanley Paving, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're quite welcome.
We really appreciate all of your insight. I think it'll help us all out there as we look to get our own driveways replaced. Again, don't trust anyone to do the job if your driveway needs paving or repairs. BBB Scam Tracker has numerous reports of unscrupulous contractors who trick homeowners with supposedly good deals on driveway paving and repairs. Homeowners end up with shoddy pavement and nothing to show for it at all, except, unfortunately, an empty bank account. At bbb.org, you can find an accredited paving company near you. There you can also look at reviews and complaints and look at how the business handles those complaints. Would you be happy with their response? And if you do feel like you've been targeted by a scam, make sure you report it, even if you haven't lost money, but definitely if you have. That way you can warn others as they're looking up these companies and doing their own research. You can go to bbb.org/scam tracker to file that report. Well, we thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope that it's been enlightening and educational for you. We're going to switch gears a bit next time and talk about tutoring, ways you can help your child succeed during the school year and prepare them during the summer months as well so that they can go to the head of the class. We'll see you then.
This is Bristol Health Cares. Special thanks to Nutmeg TV. It's a nonprofit organization, an organization that's going through some difficult times right now and needs your support. Many of you out there have cut the cable, as I have cut the cable, and a lot of the funding that took place for nonprofit stations like Nutmeg TV throughout the state of Connecticut, as people transition from cable TV to the other methods of getting their content, the funding has gone down and down and down. And so programs like this, like you're seeing today, and the programs that you watch on Nutmeg TV, may not be there in the future if we don't all rally behind them and help them with our support to the extent that we can. So have a wonderful day, and until the next time, this is Kurt Barwis, President and CEO of Bristol Health, signing off.
The Saybrook Fish House in Canton has been serving fresh seafood, chicken, and prime steaks for 40 years. Experience one of our 3 unique dining room settings, 2 with fireplaces, or relax in our cozy pub with a craft beer, wine by the glass, or specialty cocktail while enjoying a meal from our new lighter fare pub menu. Serving lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Reservations accepted for parties of 2 to 42. Gift cards always available. The Saybrook Fish House, nestled at the crossroads of routes 44, 202, and 179 in Canton.